Okay, so I'm sitting here doing some editing on a piece I need to put up in a little bit. I'm talking about being authentic and showing people who you are so you can really assess whether there's a good fit or not. And I think we often think that it's essential to achieve acceptance wherever we go. That's not possible, and it's not even desirable, because there's some people whose approval you should not really want in this life. It's not ideal if you're around, let's say, criminal elements and they think you're really awesome because you're the most violent person there, right? That's not the way you want to gain approval. If you're around deceitful people and they think you're very cunning and clever, and it may not be the best reflection on your character or how you're living your life. These are some exaggerated examples, but you can kind of adjust for where we go off the rails trying to get approval from people who maybe we shouldn't value their opinion at such a high premium. And this is why being able to be genuine, be real, allows us to feel out what fits. You want to get the gears to mesh. And if you pretend to be a different kind of gear, but when it comes time and that tooth isn't there to engage on the wheel, it's going to stop spinning. It can't perpetuate itself effectively over the long term. And it puts a lot of wear and tear on the system even as it's running. And so I could really make a strong case for saying, just go be real, be genuine, just show people who you are and what you're about. But then it occurs to me that can cause us to feel vulnerable, and it may mean we face rejection or ridicule or other things that are not entirely pleasant, no, but are also not fatal. And what is fatal is losing ourselves. You lose yourself, you damage that relationship. Maybe it's not fatal, but it's a much steeper climb to come back from that than to just remain as who you are and face the derision and the rejection and whatever else, because though it pains us for good reasons, we've always needed to be with other humans for survival, and it does activate a survival instinct when we feel we're being shunned or exiled in some way. And it's okay, that's going to come up, but it's not the wise guide we should follow. It's not the informative, helpful part of our being that knows better. It knows that we need people, and it's looking to help us. It has the best intentions, but it's not, in the modern context, the best guide. It really is just an indicator that this is uncomfortable and this is not where we belong. And to just take that as a cue, we talk a lot about vulnerability, and this is what's really going off for me. I value vulnerability. I'll make a case for it all day long. But I think it's possible to approach this exercise without having to make ourselves terribly vulnerable. We have to be real, and we have to accept being rejected for who we are. And I suppose that does take a certain kind of vulnerability. But we can create a little distance between ourselves and that feeling, that drive to be accepted, that fear of being exiled. We can create space between ourselves and those experiences by saying that this is a diagnostic exercise. To say, I throw out a joke and somebody jumps in and they get it and they're rolling with it, like, oh, okay, we've got a point of connection. You appreciate me being kind of funny and off kilter, and I appreciate your silliness, your sense of humor. There's a good match there. Other times I throw a joke out there and I get like weird faces back at me, and I'm like, okay, we're not operating on the same level, and it doesn't feel good. You try to be playful and engage with somebody and a joke falls flat and you get this like weird look and you think somebody's going to start licking their eyeball like a lizard the way they're staring at you. No, it's not the funnest thing, but it saves so much real suffering to be like, oh, okay, we're not a match, and keep rolling. And it offers so much promise, and it, with that comes a good feeling. It's worth rolling the dice to see if it doesn't come up that you've got a good match with somebody, and all that good energy can kick on, and you can start to explore further and find what other points of contact you have and where you do and don't mesh, and how you can build something of that, and maybe something really substantial. And relationships can be life altering for better and for worse, and I think we have a responsibility to choose judiciously who we engage with at what level. You can make room for a lot of people. I'm friendly with almost everybody I encounter, unless they're coming at me aggressively, and then I'm kind of neutral. But as you get closer in, it's a ever smaller circle till you're down to very low single digits in terms of people who I confide in, people who know the ins and outs of my life and I feel secure talking with at that level, because that's where it has the greatest impact, and that's where we need to be able to be vulnerable and be willing to get hurt, and we need to save our focus and our energy for that, so that when we are in those places that can grow us, can heal us, can help us see who we are and become more in tune with those finer aspects, and more aware of how to minimize the more abrasive, the rough edges. We get to polish down the rough edges a little bit as we go. And yeah, I think that we want to save the deeper vulnerability for that. We only need like that little bit of surface vulnerability. Be like, hi, this is me. You like it? No? Okay, keep moving. Practicing at rejection is so good for the soul, because you figure out very quickly, like, I just got like the cold shoulder from all these people, and I'm still okay, and the sun's still shining, and the earth's still on its axis, and I still have good people in my life who do enjoy my company, who do get my humor, who do love me, flaws and all. And that's the key. You do have to have at least one person, and it could be that one person is you. There have been times I have been the only person who I could say, like, oh, well, I crack me up. I care about me. I know ultimately I'm a pretty good person trying to do my best here, even though I've made some pretty big mistakes. Sometimes I was the only person I could say that about. But even at that, it's prioritizing that relationship over what everybody else has to offer. And you can't go forever unto yourself like that. But if we take these chances and we open to people and draw people in, we have exponentially better odds of finding people who will come in and love us as we need to be loved, and allow us to love them as they deserve to be loved, and to be part of that where we really can be vulnerable, and it's not dangerous in the same way. That's the beauty. You've chosen the people who aren't going to exploit and violate your vulnerability, your trust, and in that you can have the good stuff. And if you pretend to be something else, I've already said, if you're faking it, you might blow up something that could have been good, and you're certainly not revealing that which is not good for you by contorting ourselves to fit into what we think somebody else would want of us. We're sabotaging our ability, one, to see that it's not a healthy place, that we are going to get hurt, that our vulnerability may be exploited, used against us in some way. And we're also blowing up the possibility of forming a meaningful connection and really getting from that what is there to be gathered, and we're failing to bring to it what we might have to offer at a higher level, that there's something more we could do that would be more beneficial or enriching in a way, that we're too busy trying to fit pieces to just be at peace and be there and let everything fall together as it's meant to. And yeah, I think that taking the idea of vulnerability and putting it on a scale and saying there's a little bit of superficial vulnerability to go out and find whether you're a fit or not. But if you invest that up front, you don't have to cover all that middle ground and all that far range stuff where you eventually find out, like, oh, this wasn't a good fit, and I've been vulnerable and I've been hurt, and now it's harder to take those chances. Just say just a little bit. You like it, you don't like it, almost like you're selling a product or a service. It's not you exactly that is on the table. It's your offer of presence and engagement and support and interest, and it's these things that you're saying, hey, I got these things, do they work with what you got? And somebody says, like, no. You're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna take my toys and go home now, or I'm gonna go find someone else to play with, really. And we're not getting ourselves dragged across the rocks for no good reason. And yeah, I think when you get in closer with people, we absolutely do need to be much more open, much more prepared to get hurt, much more invested, much more engaged. But in terms of just getting to know people, it doesn't take that much vulnerability, and it does spare us being hurt in those places if we can just come, be real, say, yeah, go, no go. Bring it down to if it's a go or a no go, very simply, and not make it personal. Again, take nothing personally. And I haven't entirely mastered that. I don't always manage to shake it off that effectively, but I know I keep rolling regardless. I'm still here, I'm still talking about it, so obviously it's not that deleterious. Yeah, so I guess the summary is to say that being a little bit vulnerable and real up front means we can find the people that we can be a lot vulnerable and real with as we grow those relationships and build that trust and pardon, and get to where we really, can have the good stuff with people in that much more open way that will be okay, because we've already worked out that it is a fit or it's not, and we filtered out the problems. And that's no system's 100%, but this puts the ratios in our favor. So yeah, just thinking back about vulnerability and connection, and there it is. Okay.